Let's begin. But I won't lie to you, this won't be easy, and it's definitely not what you want to hear, but it might be the one thing you've needed all along. Somewhere inside you there's a locked room, sealed tight since childhood, and inside it lives your mother. Not the woman as she is now, or even as she was, but the force she became in your psyche. Part memory, part myth, part wound. And here's the truth no one dares to say out loud. It's not your mother who still controls you. It's the image of her that lives in your unconscious, shaping your fears, your patterns, your silence. This video asks a brutal question. What if the person you need to forgive isn't your mother, but the version of her your mind created to survive? Carl Jung called it the mother complex. And it doesn't fade with time. It waits, it whispers, it decides what you believe you deserve. This isn't a journey toward blame, it's a descent into the deepest layer of self, the part no apology can touch, and no logic can fix. Because healing doesn't happen when your mother changes. It begins the moment you stop waiting for her to. Long before we understand anything about the world, we understand her, our mother, not through words, but through presence, through tone, touch, silence. She becomes the first imprint on our heart, and in many ways the first myth we ever live inside. Carl Jung believed that the mother is more than a parent. She's an archetype, a powerful psychological force that lives deep in the unconscious, shaping how we love, how we feel safe, and how we see ourselves. This is what he called the mother complex. An emotional pattern formed in childhood that continues into adulthood, quietly scripting our behavior without us even realizing it. This isn't about blaming our mothers. It's about seeing the emotional blueprint they left behind, the one that still reacts to rejection, still questions its own worth, still bends over backward just to feel loved. For many, it's a feeling of being emotionally tied down, like we can leave home, grow up, even succeed, but something inside us still asks for her permission. Author Charles McCulloch captures this perfectly in his novel In Progress, Dancing with the Dream Family, where a woman says to her partner, "Your mother doesn't care where you fly, as long as it's not too high, too far, and you return home for a well-deserved pat on the head." That line cuts deep, because many of us know exactly what that feels like. It's not our mothers who still hold us back. It's the version of her that our psyche created and never let go. For many men, the mother isn't just the first person who loved them. She's also the first person they were afraid to disappoint. She becomes the first blueprint for what love feels like. And when that love is mixed with guilt, control, or emotional distance, it leaves a mark that can last a lifetime. Carl Jung believed that many men carry what he called a mother complex, an emotional pattern formed in childhood that continues to shape their adult relationships. He once said, "We tend to idealize what we secretly fear, and that's the trap." A man might put his mother on a pedestal, not because she was perfect, but because deep down, he was too afraid to see her flaws. This shows up in real life more than we realize. Some men jump from one relationship to another, always chasing a feeling they can't name. Others feel confused or shut down emotionally, especially when intimacy starts to feel too close, too much like something they never fully figured out as boys. But it's not all negative. If a man becomes aware of this pattern, it can open him up. He might grow into someone deeply empathetic, emotionally present, connected to beauty and meaning in ways that go beyond words. Jung called this a strong inner eros, a healthy, sensitive side that's often hidden under layers of armor. Healing begins not by blaming our mothers, but by noticing how much of her still lives inside us, and choosing, finally, to grow beyond it. For many women, the relationship with their mother isn't just emotional, it's identity shaping. It's the first mirror they ever looked into, and sometimes it's also the first battle they ever fought. Carl Jung believed that when a woman's connection with her mother becomes tangled, it forms what he called the mother complex, a set of emotional patterns that shape her life from the inside out, often without her knowing it. Sometimes, this shows up as the overmother, the woman who lives only to care for others. Her entire identity is wrapped around being needed. Her partner fades into the background, and her daughter becomes less of a child, more of a personal project, someone she clings to too tightly. In other cases, love turns into chaos. Jung called it overgrown eros, where a woman finds herself drawn to emotionally messy, unavailable relationships, especially with men who are already taken. Not for love, but for the drama, for the pain that feels oddly familiar. There's also the woman who becomes her mother completely, who loses her own voice trying to live up to a perfect, untouchable standard, and the one who rebels hard, pushing away everything her mother stood for: marriage, kids, intimacy, sometimes turning to logic and intellect as her safe zone. In each of these stories, one thing is clear: the mother lives on inside the daughter, until the daughter finds the courage to become someone more than a reflection. Every one of us carries a version of our mother inside, not just as a memory, but as a voice. Sometimes it comforts us, sometimes it criticizes us, sometimes it tells us to be strong, and sometimes it quietly convinces us that we're still not enough. Carl Jung called this voice the mother archetype, a deep emotional pattern passed down through generations. It's not about your real mother as a person. It's about the emotional imprint she left on your heart and nervous system. That imprint becomes the inner mother, a kind of emotional compass that stays with you into adulthood, for better or worse. This inner figure can be incredibly nurturing. She helps you feel safe, reminds you to rest, to care for yourself, to slow down when life gets too loud. But she can also be harsh, telling you that you have to be perfect to be loved, that your needs are too much, that you're selfish for setting boundaries. And here's where it gets harder. Without realizing it, you might start expecting other people, lovers, friends, even your own children, to fix the pain that started back then. But no one else can do that. It's a wound only you can tend. Jung believed this mother mammal evolves across your life, from mother to grandmother to what he called the Great Mother, a mix of both light and shadow. She's the fairy godmother and the wicked witch, all in one. Healing begins when you stop letting that old voice define you and start speaking back with your own. Because maybe for the first time in your life, you get to be the one who decides what love sounds like. Once you've started to recognize the inner mother, that voice inside that still whispers old fears and rules, you might also notice something harder to admit. You've been carrying pain that isn't really yours. Bert Hellinger, the creator of family constellation work, called this invisible loyalty. It's an emotional bond we form, often without realizing it, to the people who raised us, especially our mothers, not out of duty, out of love. Somewhere deep inside, you may have made a quiet vow: I won't be happier than you, I won't be more free, I won't outgrow you. It's not logical, you didn't choose it, but your heart, especially as a child, might have believed that if you surpassed your mother, if you became too happy, too successful, too healed, you might lose her love, or worse, make her feel left behind. So now, as an adult, you hold yourself back. You almost finish that project, then abandon it. You almost let someone love you, then push them away. You almost feel joy, then remind yourself you don't deserve it yet. Not because you're weak, but because part of you believes you're being loyal. But the truth is, you don't heal your mother by copying her sadness. You don't honor her by repeating her pain. Hellinger taught that real love says, I see your suffering, I thank you for what you gave, and now I choose something new. Letting go of this invisible loyalty doesn't mean letting go of love. It means setting both of you free. After years of carrying your mother's pain, of dimming your joy, holding back your dreams, staying small to feel safe, something subtle but heartbreaking begins to happen. Her voice becomes your own. That quiet judgment, that pressure to be perfect, that deep nagging feeling that you're only lovable if you do everything right. It doesn't even sound like her anymore. It sounds like you. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said that the inner mother, if left unexamined, becomes part of our personality. The criticism she once spoke out loud now lives in your thoughts, and it doesn't need her anymore to keep going. You push yourself past exhaustion and call it discipline. You deny yourself rest, softness, even joy, because you think you haven't earned it. You punish yourself for making mistakes, believing you should have known better, done better, been better. And the saddest part? You think this is just who you are now. But it's not. This isn't your voice. It's something you learned. A kind of emotional muscle memory from trying so hard to be a good daughter or son. Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But maybe that's what healing is, learning to speak to yourself differently, not with harshness, but with the kindness you never got, not with fear, but with truth. You don't have to be your own tyrant to be strong. You don't have to suffer to be worthy. It's okay to start unlearning the punishment and remembering how to be on your own side. Once you realize that you've been hard on yourself in the same ways your mother once was, that you've become your own inner critic, there's a quiet kind of heartbreak. But there's also a doorway, because now you get to ask, what if I didn't keep treating myself this way? This is where the real healing starts, not by blaming anyone, not by waiting for an apology, but by becoming the one person you always needed, by learning how to reparent yourself. That means showing up for yourself, especially in the moments when you feel scared, tired, ashamed, or not enough. It means noticing when that inner voice starts tearing you down and gently asking it to step aside. Instead of judgment, you offer yourself something new, firm but kind compassion, a kind of love that doesn't excuse everything, but also doesn't punish you for being human. You ask yourself simple questions. What am I feeling right now? What do I need? What would someone who loved me say to me in this moment? You stop treating rest like a reward and start treating it like a right. You set boundaries, not to push people away, but to keep yourself safe inside. You start speaking to yourself like someone who matters. Carl Jung once wrote, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration." This is integration. This is how you become whole, not by being perfect, but by finally being on your own side. As you learn to show up for yourself with love, as the parent you never had, something subtle begins to happen. You stop needing your mother to change. You stop waiting for her to say the perfect thing or finally love you the way you always wanted. Not because it didn't matter, but because now you matter to yourself. And when that shift begins, it's time for the next step, taking back what your mind projected onto her. Carl Jung said that much of healing isn't about fixing others. It's about recognizing how we've cast our own fears and needs onto them, especially onto the people who raised us. And the mother? She often carries the heaviest projection of all. She becomes a monster or a saint, a ghost we blame or a goddess we chase approval from. But the truth? She was a person, flawed, human, trying, and maybe failing in her own way. Your mother once chased me with a broom, but that doesn't make her a witch. When you can separate what actually happened from the story your pain has told you, you start seeing things more clearly. You stop needing her to be someone she never was, and you give yourself permission to move on, not with bitterness, but with peace. Letting go of the myth doesn't mean forgetting the hurt. It means releasing your grip on a story that no longer needs to define you. Once you stop telling the old story, the one where your mother has to change before you can be happy, something shifts. It's not that the pain disappears, it's that you stop handing it the pen. Carl Jung said healing begins when we take back the parts of ourselves we've projected onto others. That includes the version of our mother we've kept alive in our heads, the one who still controls how we feel even when she's no longer in the room. You don't have to cut her out of your life, but you do have to change where she sits in your mind. Not on a throne, not in the shadows, just beside you, human, imperfect, no longer in charge. Because here's the truth that's hard to accept, but freeing once you do. The mother you've been waiting for is you. The one who listens, who soothes, who finally says, "You're enough." That's who you're becoming. If any part of this spoke to you, I hope you'll let me know in the comments. And if you think someone else needs to hear this, please share it. Don't forget to subscribe not just to this channel, but to your own healing. You're allowed to stop waiting. You're allowed to begin again.